Jeremy Hunt is looking at introducing a 99% loan-to-value mortgage, but critically, it looks to me like they're going to allow this on existing properties. There is a consultation which has come out looking to cap ground rents. You know, it is slightly questionable. Rishi Sunak made 5 promises a while ago. I think Liz Truss's ideas for growth were far more impressive. Welcome to Mark My Words. We're in the Nerve Centre today. This is my office. This is where it all takes place. We're going to go through various articles in the media, so let's get started with the affairs of the day. Okay, so the first article of note is that Jeremy Hunt is looking at reintroducing a Help to Buy type scheme with a 99% loan to value mortgage. I suppose in terms of the finance, in many ways, the substance is the same or similar to Help to Buy. So the government is providing some sort of guarantee to the banks. I guess they may be taking an equity stake, or that's what they're thinking about doing in properties. But critically, and I think this is where the difference is, and I think this can potentially make this a lot better for first-time buyers. And I know if my son was ready to buy, I would be a lot more interested in this than the original Help to Buy scheme. It looks to me like they're going to allow this on existing properties. At the moment, the talk is that you'll be able to go and find a property maybe that needs a little bit of work, put a very small deposit in if you're a first-time buyer, and therefore you're going to be adding value. The big issue with Help to Buy was that it was only available on new build properties, and most of those were 1 and 2 bed flats. And what used to happen round here was you get a 1 bed flat that was 175,000 ordinarily, and they'd sell it on Help to Buy for maybe 220. First time buyers, often less experienced, were happy to pay more money. It enabled them to get on the housing ladder using this scheme. Lots of people have accepted that it was a great gravy train for the developers. It kept construction rolling, which was good in many ways. They were making a hell of a lot of money out of these flats, selling them than really more than the market value, which probably put the purchaser at risk, certainly put the government and the lender at slightly more risk as well. I do think doing it on existing properties would be a good thing. Lots of people are saying, oh, it's going back to Northern Rock and risky lending, and I suppose in some ways it is, but I don't think it'll be a bank lending 99%. I suspect there'll be a government guarantee there, and if the loan isn't paid, I suspect the lender won't take the full loss here. They may be only in for 85, 90%, so they're probably going up to what they normally would do, and I think the government takes the extra risk, and they may be taking an equity share. They may be making some money out of the rise in the value of these properties over time, which will probably negate any losses that they make from properties that need to be repossessed. The critical issue here is that there are not enough properties being built, and most of that is because of the planning system. Most of it is planning officers and consultees being slow, developers not having the confidence because they're not sure if they are going to get planning consent. The housing target is 300,000. Government's got nowhere near it. They've just sort of touched 200,000, something like that. Keir Starmer's come out with his housing target, which is 1.5 million over 5 years. They're not building anywhere near enough, most of it because of the issues with the planning system. This does deal with first-time buyers and helps them get on the ladder, but it also does stoke price increases. Prices will rise in the areas where these first-time buyers are using this special finance scheme to buy. So the next story I'm going to talk about is ground rents and freeholders. I've got an article here talking about how freeholders are living off a renter structure with exorbitant ground rent. I suppose he has got a bit of a point where in some cases ground rents of £8,000 a year are being charged, and there are massive service charges on some flats, and I'm just dealing with an issue with a right to manage company at the moment where it looks like they're attempting to fleece us. There is a consultation which has come out. Government have just concluded it on last week on January the 17th, and this is looking to cap ground rents potentially at a peppercorn. So you cap ground rents at £1. That would be on existing leases. You are taking a lot of value away from a freeholder. These are pension schemes. This is you and I that own these in funds and in pension pension schemes, it is slightly questionable, and I don't know if this will necessarily stand with human rights legislation and so on. The next thing they are talking about is setting a maximum financial value for ground rent. That's already sort of happened. If you go to a lot of lenders, they are already setting it as a percentage of the value of the property. Often £250 a year is a maximum that I see, but with sort of higher value properties, that does tend to go up a little bit. But lenders have already started to impose that because they can see the writing on the wall. Limiting ground rent to the original value when the lease was agreed, that's one potential. I'm not sure that'll fly because you could have leases that were agreed 80 years ago and inflation has reduced their real value down to a few pounds. So I'm not sure how that will work unless they inflation link it. And then freezing ground rent at current levels. Again, capping the ground rent and reducing it, and eventually it will be equivalent of a peppercorn because inflation will just erode it. So watch this space. I don't know what they're going to do. They've been talking about this for a hell of a long time. There is talk also that they're going to ban leasehold houses. I'd understood they were already doing that. I haven't seen new build developers building leasehold houses for some time now because they expect legislation to change. And I think it will change, it's just taking a long, long time. So Rishi Sunak made 5 promises a while ago, and there's an article here asking what progress he's made. So number 1 was halve inflation. Well, I think he's got there. Was this really because of him? No, I think this was already baked in anyway. Inflation largely went up because supply chains got shut during COVID, and Putin went into Ukraine and pushed energy prices up, which seeps into so many other areas of the economy. That created a bit of a vicious circle, which pushed wages higher and higher. And it spread into the real economy, service sector. Interest rates have gone up. That's determined by the Bank of England, the Monetary Policy Committee, not officially by Rishi Sunak, although I imagine he and Jeremy Hunt make some unofficial calls to the MPC and to the governor, trying to influence them. So inflation has halved. I suspect that was going to happen anyway. And as Rishi came from a hedge fund background, I suspect he understands how inflation works and what constitutes and drives inflation more than most. So whilst, yes, it was on most people's minds and they wanted inflation to reduce, I think he probably thought that was an easy one to promise. Second one, grow the economy. Well, he's failed dismally on that. I don't see where the new policies are. I don't see where the agenda for growth is. He certainly doesn't seem to have taken the civil service to task. He doesn't seem to have dealt with a lot of the backbench MPs. And, I think Liz Truss's ideas for growth were far more impressive, even though she clearly didn't have the skill set to deliver them. And tried to introduce things far too quickly. So I think he's failed really badly on growing the economy, and things just look like they're going from bad to worse in that. Number 3, he promised to reduce debt. Again, I think he's failed dismally on that front. He may have reduced debt as a percentage of GDP. I haven't looked at that, but the actual amount that we still owe as a country, it's over £2.6 trillion. He hasn't reduced it, so I think number 3 is a big fail. Number 4, cut the waiting list. I presume that refers to hospital waiting lists. Spoke to a friend only last week who said the NHS and the ways which hospitals are dealing with his customers, he runs a care company, has got progressively worse every year. I don't think the waiting lists have reduced, certainly with doctors or getting surgery done. So again, I think he's failed. Number 5, stop the boats. Well, he's definitely failed with that. He's probably achieved number 1 and failed on the other 4. There are 2 types of politician: those who want to do something and those who want to be something. And I think Rishi fits very firmly in the latter camp. So clearly this is too late for the next election. It looks very much like the Tories are going to get an almighty kicking. They clearly deserve it. I just wish and hope that somebody will appear who has the gumption and the balls to take on the civil service, the backbench MPs, to make those difficult decisions, a la Margaret Thatcher. He got a huge majority, which he squandered. He could be bringing all sorts of legislation forward to drive business into growth, to generate investment. He hasn't done any of that, and actually it's probably become more complicated and confidence has reduced. So I would certainly hope that somebody will come forward. Who knows, maybe Mr. Farage is the man, maybe somebody else, but I suspect Keir Starmer is just going to do more of the same. So that has been Mark Homer for Mark My Words. If you like this content, please make sure you follow the podcast, and if you're watching on video, like and subscribe on YouTube. There's a free report that goes along with this video. If you click further down, you'll be able to download this report, and it will give you a whole array of information about the property market.